A very busy newscast for this hour, so welcome to it. And we begin with breaking news because the United States has confirmed the signing of a nuclear cooperation deal with Saudi Arabia. That's according to a post by the U.S. Energy Department, which described the deal as historic. The terms should now be submitted to Congress for review. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright has tried to reassure the public that the program will comply with nuclear safety and non-proliferation standards. Have a listen.
Rest assured, these agreements uphold the highest standards of nuclear safety and non-proliferation, while relying on the world's best nuclear technology and scientists designed right here in the United States. Thanks to President Trump, the American nuclear renaissance is underway and will deliver long-term benefits to the American and Saudi people.
Well, for more details, let's cross live to RT correspondent Caleb Maupin. Caleb, a very, very good day to you. Well, not everyone is reassured by this promise by the United States that all will be fine and non-proliferation will be abided to left and right.
Sure. The Department of Energy is hailing this as a victory. It's going to create American jobs. It's going to improve U.S.-Saudi relations. The deal that was announced would include American firms working to develop Riyadh's civilian nuclear program. That is how it's being described. Now, critics have immediately jumped out swinging, saying that the deal, as it is understood and based on leaks that have been received by the press, would involve major compromises of the non-proliferation standards that the U.S. Department of Energy and other countries that follow the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty usually abide by. They're citing loopholes in the agreement that would enable Saudi Arabia to develop its enrichment capacity and other details. This is a former Israeli prime minister loudly opposing this deal.
The nuclear deal taking shape with Saudi Arabia over Israel's head is a grave strategic failure that endangers our security. The enrichment of nuclear material on Saudi soil could lead to a regional nuclear arms race and a highly dangerous loss of control, because there is truly no way to predict what the Middle East will look like in a decade or two. Therefore, what is needed is fewer centrifuges in the Middle East, not more. This failure joins a sequence of diplomatic failures, at the center of which Israel is losing influence over its own fate.
Now, the obvious point of criticism that many in the international community are making is that the United States is currently engaged in a war, and right now, Donald Trump is threatening to bomb Iran on allegations that they might be seeking to expand their nuclear energy program. Iran practices peaceful nuclear energy, and at this point, we have Donald Trump threatening to bomb Pickaxe Mountain in Iran, saying that he has intelligence that this is where Iran has moved its remaining centrifuges and that it has taken them to an underground facility and that the United States will strike. Donald Trump has justified the attacks on Iran and the conflict and the bombing of the country on the basis of saying it's necessary to make sure that Iran never acquires a nuclear weapon, even though Iran has only ever engaged in peaceful nuclear energy that they have the right to do under the International Atomic Energy and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. However, Donald Trump finds Iran's peaceful nuclear energy program to be a threat, argues that they are trying to get a nuclear weapon. This has been Donald Trump's rhetoric when it comes to the war against Iran that has taken many lives.
Nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Do you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? You think it's good?
We don't need the Hormuz Strait, but we do it because we have to do it, because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon.
Now, Iran has maintained that they have never been seeking a nuclear weapon, and this is simply a pretext for attacks being waged to the benefit of Israel and the United States to maintain their control of the region. Iran is a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and in 2015, they gave up almost all of their peaceful nuclear energy program as part of the Iran nuclear deal. in the aftermath of the Iran nuclear deal. We saw Qasem Soleimani killed, and we saw more sanctions imposed by the United States on Iran. And at a time the United States and Iran were negotiating, we saw this recent war launched and Supreme Leader Khamenei murdered. So we have a situation where Iran says they have not been pursuing a nuclear weapon, and they've been found to be fully compliant by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Meanwhile, it's widely well known that Israel has nuclear weapons, and that's widely understood. In addition to that, we now have the United States apparently announcing cooperation with Saudi Arabia to develop and expand civilian nuclear energy activities in a way that many say is employing loopholes and violating the proliferation standards that are generally used by U.S. nuclear power in compliance with the International Atomic Energy Agency and the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So it seems like while the United States is attacking and bombing Iran for expanding their nuclear energy program, they're enabling Saudi Arabia to do roughly the same thing and expand their nuclear power. It points to hypocrisy, and it has many raising concerns about the region, the potential of not just more countries in the region becoming nuclear powers, but perhaps some kind of arms race in the region. Many eyebrows are being raised by this announcement, but the Trump administration maintains this is perfectly safe. It will lead to more jobs for Americans, better relations between the United States and Saudi Arabia, and is presenting it as a step forward despite global outcry.
Well, indeed, it is almost like a lullaby coming out of the United States and Saudi Arabia, and alarm from the Middle East. RT correspondent Caleb Morpin, thank you very much.